Well, what is going on, everyone? And welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie, and I hope you have yourself a fantastic day. Today, we're going to talk about the absence of master sets moving forward. We're going to talk about the end, part two, the re-ending, the second or third end of master sets, what it's going to do to the world of Magic. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I also want to talk about the Dwight Schrute Secret Lair because it applies to the conversation about why I think they aren't doing master sets anymore and what it's going to do to the market and what it's going to do to singles equity. But I want to talk about Dwight Schrute because we have to celebrate. For the first time ever in the history, I've been married for like 12 years, something like that. For the first time ever in the history, my wife texted me a screenshot of Magic the Gathering. And we got to celebrate that. I mean, that is incredible. That needs to be celebrated. And I actually did a little test when the Dwight Schrute Secret Lair was announced. I didn't tell my wife because I wanted to test this theory. The theory being, does somebody who has no interest in Magic the Gathering put Magic the Gathering cards in front of them because of their algorithm on the social medias with the thing that they like? And lo and behold, she's an Office fan. Our whole, relationship started with watching The Office in college, and she got fed the algorithm and got fed Magic the Gathering cards enough to take a screenshot and send it to me, and that's saying something. So I want to talk first about the Dwight Schrute Secret Lair and kind of the Jaws Secret Lair, this whole Secret Lair super drop that's coming out. This is one of the more in-your-face secret layers, in my opinion. We've spoken a lot on the podcast. I am not a fan of Magic the Gathering cards that bring real life things in, because Magic the Gathering, when I play it, I want it to be this like fantasy world, this fantasy game, this thing that is like whatever. But when it's outside of a set and it brings people in, I think it's still a big win. I know it's not my personal opinion, my personal the things that I want in my deck, but it still brings more people into the game, and that's really interesting. And we are growing on this channel to look at Magic, unfortunately or fortunately, at Magic as a game system rather than an IP in its own identity. And that's one of the things I'm really trying to stretch myself to think about, is that the Magic thing that they are selling is the game system of Magic. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I think this all applies to the no more masters thing. You see, around 10 years ago, when they started doing the master sets, what Wizards was looking for is a way to do kind of two things. Number one, make more money. They're a company, right? They were looking for a way to make more money off of cards they had already produced, and they had already created a huge slew of cards that would be fun to play together. Cards came out in Innistrad, and Innistrad block was great. And cards came out in Mirrodin Besieged, and the Mirrodin block was great. Hey, here's an idea. What if you got to play limited experiences with, limited being that you open the packs and you play the game and you draft. What if you got to play limited with cards from different formats, the best cards from different formats? And that's an incredibly cool way to play Magic. Commander Masters Draft, it evolved, right? Evolved through Modern Masters and all the Masters things. Commander Masters Draft, I think the most recent Master set, is the best way to play Magic the Gathering. It is so much fun to sit down in a pot of four and draft Commander Masters, because it's always powerful. Every time you do it, you can do something different. It usually, jumpstarts an idea for a fun Commander deck. I love Commander Masters. The biggest problem with Commander Masters, really the only problem in my opinion, is that Commander Masters price at distribution, and then the price, to you guys as customers, was just too high. They got too greedy. That was, in my opinion, the only problem with Commander Masters. But back in the day, they created master sets to have that different, environment and a different way to play the game system and a different way for them to produce money. Again, the money part pretend like that's not a part of it. It was a premium product. It was more expensive than a regular booster box. That was the big thing. But things have changed now. Like, we are in this completely different universe where there's basically a subset of what would be a master's product in every standard release. For Spider-Man, you've got the Spider-Man, borderless comic book cards, and there's a counter spell in there, and there's all these powerful cards that would have been potentially reprint equity in a master set. And then they've also put on the name Spider-Man, they've also put on the name Final Fantasy, and they've increased the price. And instead of utilizing the reprint equity necessarily to increase the price, they are utilizing the IPs to increase the price. And because they are doing master sets inside of these, individual sets, it's more difficult for them to come out and say, hey, let's do a full-fledged master set. And this brings me to really, I think the point of this video is that reprints are now, I wouldn't even call them reprints as much as they are like reskins. If you look at like the game of Fortnite or whatever, there are a lot of people, Counterspell is just like the easiest example. Maybe Heuristic Study is a better example because it's a more expensive card. There's a lot of people who want Heuristic Study to be reprinted in their booster box, right? So they can pull it, so they can open it for their commander deck. The reprint equity of a card like Heuristic Study is very, very high. It sells boxes. But when you put a Heuristic Study, I know it's not in Spider-Man, okay? I'm just using it as an example. We'll use Final Fantasy because it's in Final Fantasy. When you reprint a Heuristic Study in Final Fantasy, I'm going to use Spider-Man. If you reprint Heuristic Study in Spider-Man, the person who doesn't like Spider-Man, it doesn't apply any of the reprint equity to that subgroup of people. They don't want to put a Spider-Man Heuristic Study in their deck. So it doesn't affect as much the market price of the Heuristic Study. And this is why I think, from the standpoint of somebody who does a lot of selling singles, I actually think that this whole shift away from master sets and into more IP-based reskins of the cards is going to have a positive effect if you are looking at singles prices being stable. There used to be an effect when a Commander Masters came out or a Master Set came out and they reprinted a Heuristic Study or whatever that card is, it would crash the price for a while. When they put it in a Commander deck, it would crash the price for a while. And I think the volatility of that goes away significantly when the reprint is much, much harder to pull. If you get a booster box of the Master Set versus a box of Spider-Man and there's one card in each pack and that kind of thing, it's a much harder to pull reprint. But then additionally, that reprint equity that would have gone into making a Magic the Gathering version of Heuristic Study again isn't affected because it doesn't affect as wide of a player base of people who don't necessarily want the Spider-Man version of that card. And so I think where there's a lot of, in my opinion, I don't love it because I'm not a huge fan of playing Dwight Schrute in my Magic, right? Like, I'm stoked that my wife saw it. She's still not going to play Magic, right? Like, it's just not going to be what she does. I'm stoked that she saw it. I'm stoked that somebody does it, but I still don't want that. It's still a negative to me in the Magic the Gathering world. But I think that it's a positive when you start looking at the reprint equity going to things. If you really want a cheaper version of the card, you're somebody who doesn't care about that, you might be able to get the cheaper version and a secret layer or that kind of thing. But it's not going to crash. The volatility of the prices of singles, in my opinion, is far less now than it was when master sets were there. And so I think that this is an effect of Magic becoming more and more of a game system. It's one of the positive effects is the less volatility because, and I know it's always been a game system, blah, blah, blah. But when they're focusing more on the game system rather than having to produce Magic the Gathering versions of the same card, I think it produces less volatility in the singles economy, which I think is, at the end is still a good positive thing for Magic the Gathering. I think it's a good positive thing for stores. I think it's a good positive thing for customers who already have singles and who are already picked them up. The only thing that it hurts, in my opinion, is, you used to see something like a Smothering Tithe, when it would approach a $15 price tag, when the reprint would happen, it would get scooped up pretty quickly by people who can afford it. But I think Secret Layer kind of solves that. If they continue to do these secret layers and they continue to put these things in, they should be able to provide a lot of people access to those cards at a lot cheaper as a result of the secret layer being, part of a 5 or 6 card thing for $40, $30, whatever it is. As long as they figure out that kind of order system, which they have been working on. Like it has been getting better with the secret layer thing. They've been limiting it a little bit better, and I think that's a win. So those are my raw thoughts. I know that was a lot of thoughts on the no more master sets thing. I'm a little disappointed because I like master sets, but I think at the end of the day, this new dynamic where it's kind of reskins rather than reprints is going to have a positive effect on single card prices, and that's a good thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hopefully you have yourself a fantastic day. We'll see you again next week.